and let's consider this a personal audio journal of mine. A lot of rambling, a lot of random stuff, anything relevant in my personal life that has to do with health, fitness, diet, business, being an entrepreneur, and simply trying to unlock the avenues of personal growth that help me find the most happy, fulfilling, and free life that I can live. I hope that you guys can take something away from the show and maybe find some entertainment in it as well. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get to it. It's good to hear that music, baby. We are back. Let's go. Come on now. We're back in the Snap podcast. It's been too long, and it was without warning that this show, this worldwide, internationally acclaimed show, popular every week on the podcast platforms and YouTube, just disappeared. I, as you guys know, became a father way back in December, right? In fact, this week in 2 days from recording this comes out on Wednesdays. Still going to come out on Wednesdays, by the way, moving forward. On Friday, baby girl is 6 months old. 6 months old. Now, you guys have missed, not that you guys care about her life necessarily, but you guys have missed the last 2.5, maybe 3 months of this show, half of her life. And reason being is because of baby Kinley. We were full-time daddy daycare, my people. We went full-time daddy daycare. We last checked in with our quarterfinals recap. In fact, actually, let me make sure of that. Yes. So the last Snapped podcast came on March 22nd. April, May, June. Damn near 3 months ago. Just a week short of 3 months ago. And that was your quarterfinals recap. We talked about how I did personally in the quarterfinals. We talked about, where I finished up, the workouts and specificity, what the workouts entailed, how I did, my thought process on that. That was the end. That was the recap of my competitive CrossFit season, as I did not move on to the semifinals. Flash forward to now, almost 3 months later, and actually last weekend, the last CrossFit semifinal just finished up. So on this podcast, it's like, bam, quarterfinals are done. Now semifinals are done. There's actually been 3 months of preparation for all those athletes that went on to semifinals and the whole kit and caboodle. And the reason that, another part of me in that quarterfinals episode, if you listen to it, and by God, did you guys listen to it? I mean, I don't know where this came from. I don't know if I just got lucky, and because I titled it what I titled it, CrossFit quarterfinals 2023 recap. I don't know if the CrossFit community is growing in wanting podcast information, in wanting other, they're curious. I don't know I don't know what happened. Okay. But I had not gotten on the account where I published these episodes for over 2 months until last week, because I'm like, oh shit, here we go. We're starting this back up again. And by the way, I am fucking stoked to get these episodes rolling again. I had so many of you reach out and say, hey, yo, we're Snapped. I didn't know. I wouldn't say it was like overtly crazy, but it was more than I thought when I was trying to consider like how much of a reach or impact, or how many people, like I look at these numbers, and we'll talk about how many listens and downloads these episodes get here in a second. But I don't know how many of those are real. Like it's like when you get on Twitter and you see the egg profile and you have a ton of new followers, and like half of them are just eggs with like user 1689110 and you're like, okay, well, is that a bot? Is that some Russian bot, or is that a real human? It's the same thing with these podcast numbers. I don't know if you guys, so for example, we average a little over 300 listens per episode. I don't know if that's 300 individual people. I don't know if that's some like bot somewhere on the internet, like randomly counting as plays, and like actually only 60 of you are listening to this, I have no idea, but I had probably 10 or more people reach out. And if you're one of those people, shout out to you and say, yo, where is this? Where's Snapped? Like, are you done with that? Are you still doing that? Several of you are like, I get a lot out of this. These are entertaining. I actually really like these. These are helpful. Made me feel real damn good. Okay. As I always say, this is a passion project. And if I can impart some wisdom, and boy, do I not have very much of that, but I have a lot of experience in the health fitness field. And now, as the days roll on, a little bit of entrepreneurship and business ownership. Um, and that helps somebody out there. Shit, man. I feel great about that. I feel great about that. So, um, anyway, back to me not knowing what happened. That last podcast has 2,622 listens on it. 2,600 listens on this podcast. Um, I can't unfortunately, uh, I can't unfortunately search by or kind of sort my episodes based on their plays, but there is not a single podcast that I've done that has even close to the amount of listens than that quarterfinal podcast has. And I don't know if that's because that's the last one I listened to, so you guys kept intermittently coming back and maybe tapping on that, and that was counting as double listen. I have no idea, but thank you guys. And if there's a bunch of new people who found that quarterfinals podcast, the CrossFit quarterfinals podcast, and enjoyed it, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we'll give this guy a follow. He's a fringe, okay quarterfinals athlete, maybe semifinals someday if he ever gets his shit together and quits getting hurt. We'll get to that in a second. I'll listen to his podcast. Then welcome to the show. And I'm so happy that you're here. We have over 115 episodes of this show. I'd say 80 of them are topic specific, not about me in particular, but like, hey, drink more water. Hey, you should do more stretching. Hey, here's a mindset tip. And I think they relate or are relevant to a lot of people. And then every once in a while, today's episode, for the most part, are going to be, because this is my podcast, they're going to be life updates, personal. You're following Tyler Kluver's journey of being a fucking semi okay CrossFit athlete who thinks he's competitive, a guy who's a personal trainer and fitness and nutrition coach, a guy who is a podcaster, business owner, and a guy who just likes to hop on and create content. So if you're here, welcome. I still didn't really answer the question of why I wasn't here. So anyway, that quarterfinals podcast happened. As you guys know, I did quarterfinals in Florida. It was on vacation. Wasn't ideal. We got back from Florida. That was spring break 2023. My wife is a teacher. She goes back to school that Monday, and daddy daycare starts. And let me tell you about daddy daycare. And we might even have a full episode about what I learned in 2 months of daddy daycare. I think it would be entertaining and pretty funny, especially to the fellow parents out there. But the first thing I learned, and it's wild to think of how much she has grown. The little girl, has grown in those 3 months since we got back. But the first thing that was real evident was I'm not going to be able to record a podcast as a full time dad. Now, let's break that down a little bit. Could I have recorded on Wednesdays when the wife got home and, um, you know, she would watch her and I would get this done? Yes. Okay. The problem is, and maybe to my fault or not, um, I did not see getting this podcast done, knowing that Daddy Daycare had an end date. I did not see getting this podcast done. Um, with the idea, knowing that it would come back about this time in the summer, as important enough to force that in there. I wanted to keep this schedule on every Wednesday because it fits good in my current schedule with what I have going on with work. So I didn't want to move it. Wednesdays, assuming that I did wait for the wife to come home and record this, weren't great days. Wednesdays are when I record the much more important podcast, the Washed Up Walk-Ons, um, somewhere around 6 o'clock. Right after that podcast gets recorded, we do bedtime with baby girl, and we get ourselves ready for bed, and that's the end of our day. So it would have had to be done before 6. We eat dinner at 5:30 so that the podcast can get recorded. So it would have had to have been done at least starting at 5 minimum. And with baby girl, and those again who are parents know, you don't know when the naps are going to come. You don't know when they're going to wake up randomly out of a nap. My workouts were the thing that got moved to when the wife got home. So wife would get home about 3:15. I'd go out to the garage. I would train from 3:30 to 5, and then it was time to make dinner. There just simply wasn't time for this podcast, and that's what I'm trying to get the point across. So we're back. Again, I'm not going to go too far into daddy daycare. It was amazing. Got to wake up, be home, and basically just be full-time dad with baby girl every single day for a little over 2 months, and that was, I mean, it was just very special. And I encourage anyone who has the opportunity to do that to do it. There were some strong feelings of in productivity, non-productivity, unproductivity. I don't know what the the prefix for the opposite of productivity would be, but that's what I felt. There was some guilt, and I think this is relatable too. When once you become a parent, you some amount of guilt is going to be unavoidable at that point. You go to work like my wife, and you feel guilty because you're not seeing your kid as much as you'd like to, and being in their life as much as you possibly could, in theory. Or you stay home like I did, the other extreme of that, and you feel guilty that you're not uh, fully reaching the potential of your career and what you can do work wise and income wise to provide for your child. So it's this really weird dichotomy. Um, so I've wanted to do this podcast. I have a list. I just sent uh, the list of topics last week to Justin, my good friend, who lives here in town. Uh, he kind of he reiterated like, "Hey, where's Snap? Is Snap coming back?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, here's the list of topics. I've got about 50 of them, and we're gonna be good all the way through." Honestly, like I've got enough topics that I'm probably full through 2023, the second half of this year, which is exciting. Um, and so we are finally back. Wife is home for the summer. Summer vacation is here. She's now home during the day, which allows me periods of time like this where she goes for a walk with friends uh, to get work done. I can actually start sliding back into a work schedule. And then when school starts back up in the fall, that is when baby girl will actually start daycare that isn't daddy daycare. I'm going to cry dropping her off. That's a whole nother fucking podcast, probably. I'll be in shambles. But she will go to a full time daycare and allow me to reestablish a full workday of, call it 7 to 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So there will be no more, well, shouldn't say no more, until kid number 2 comes around, which, probably will be in the next couple years. I don't plan on taking any more big breaks from this podcast. So that's a little bit of an update on where I went, why, the thought process behind it, and was it twice as long as it needed to be? Yes, because that's the spirit of this podcast. Okay, so that's a quick little life update. Snapped is back. We're here. Let's fucking go. Okay. Next up on the agenda. Oh, and by the way, I fully expect that the listens drop here, and I that's the one thing that I was pissed about. It was the biggest con of deciding to take 2 to 3 months off of this podcast is I know that the biggest thing with podcasts and gaining a listenership, gaining a following that grows at a rate that is exciting and beneficial to the success of your podcast is consistency. It's why I think I've been able to grow this podcast organically without hardly ever advertising it um, anywhere on my social media. I have 15,000 followers plus on Twitter, 2,500 on Instagram, and then the full podcast that we do that has thousands and thousands of listeners for the Iowa football deal, Wash Up Walk-Ons. I have maybe once mentioned that I have another podcast, and I didn't say the name of it. So this podcast community, whoever listens to this thing, if there's 300 real people of you, and according to the last 5 episodes, 2,600 listens, almost 600 listens for the 23.3 recap, 345, 346, 323, 340. So it looked to be growing up into the mid 300s, maybe even 400 people. That 400 people is a truly organic, cultivated, like just being found in the podcast app, recommended, um, you know, titles popping up when people search other topics that are similar, and then people sticking around. So I really appreciate you guys. Um, I knew that that was going to drop probably. I'm very interested to see what this podcast brings in listenership wise. I hope that everyone has followed the show. A bunch of people have followed the show and gotten excited about it. And we'll see. After the first 17 minutes of me rambling on here, you're probably like, okay, I don't give a fuck. I promise that if you've made it this far, the rest of the episodes will not be like this. So, they will be me rambling. It won't just be about random dumb housekeeping shit. Nonetheless, we restart, we see where we're at, and we push forward. And we have a bunch of solid content lined up, a bunch of great topics. And I'm really excited to dive into those. And more so just again with that unproductivity, not sure that's the word, getting this back on the schedule every week on Wednesdays really excites me because it's one more thing that I know I can put on the schedule for Wednesday. I do it, I produce the podcast, I put it out there, I publish it. It feels like I got something done. It's one of those things where, hey, it's on the schedule every week. I'm doing a podcast. Uh, the more I have on my schedule, Monday, bang, 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 every week that are weekly things that I can check off, the more momentum I feel like I have. I work better when I have a bunch of things scheduled and I just check those off. Bang. I'm a big checklist guy. Um, so that's that. Personal, uh, I hate saying personal training wise because that makes it sound like people that I would be training. My own personal workouts and training structure and goals right now and where I'm at with my own training. Well, not good. Uh, turns out I'm on day 11 of being injured again. Uh, and what did you injure, Tyler? Well, it's my back again. Now, there's some there's some good news and some bad news. You want the bad news first? Okay. The bad news is that it is my back again and that it was serious enough. I mean, it was like a full back blowout. Uh and it's requiring 2 weeks. I mean, I don't foresee myself being 100% by Saturday at all. Maybe the Saturday after that. I mean, it's going to be a 3-week ordeal where I really can't touch weights again. After we already went through this bullshit back in November, for those that weren't around then, I had been overtraining, under recovering, and ran myself into the ground with my back. And my back basically forced me to take like 4 to 6 weeks off of no weights. Now, the positive side of this, the good news is, as I just said, I've gone through this within the last year, and I know that my body will probably not lose a crazy, scary amount that mentally you could convince yourself that it would. Um, in fact, I've hit kind of like I've been right at my squat top numbers ever still since that injury, since February, March, April ish. I pulled a PR deadlift 2 weeks before I did this thing to my back. I'm snatching and cleaning more than I ever have before this happened. And that was all with just 3 or 4 months of training after coming off of 2 months of not touching a barbell. So 3 weeks of not touching a barbell, I'll be okay. Number two positive thing about this is this sounds bad, but this was a acute moment of I know exactly when it happened. I felt it go. It was a specific rep that this happened on, and it's not so much an overtraining injury. Why is that a good thing? Overtraining is the point where you literally take your body to a spot where it just decides over the course of anywhere from a day to a week that you've done too much with it. You've run it into the ground. You haven't stretched or done enough soft tissue or stayed hydrated enough. Probably a combination of all these things to where your body is just going to decide to start giving you pain signals to stop. That's bad news because it's a little bit more systemic and not as specific. And addressing a systemic issue, getting your entire body to drop that stress of overtraining and completely reset is going to take you, like it took me, 4, 6, 8 weeks to fix. That's not good. When you have a specific injury, you pop a hammy, right? Even like a broken finger or broken toe or a sprained ankle, you can bounce back from these things because it's a localized injury. Probably the worst place to get a localized injury is your back because it starts to radiate to other parts of your body, up your back into your neck. Yes, that happened to me. Down your back into your hip. Yes, that happened to me. Um, but if you fix the issue, if you can directly attack, like, oh, I know that this is my back that's giving me issues, you can come back much faster. And I do plan to fully be 100% by when you're listening to this on the Wednesday it comes out, about 9 days from now, Friday, Saturday of next weekend. Um, so a little 3-week setback. Uh, Probably the most damage it did was really prevent me from getting a really sick training session in George Kittle's barn, because we're going to be leaving for Nashville in 4 days and going down to Tight End U for the walk-ons and getting a bunch of content down there. We were going to get a sick workout in his customized gym that he built inside of a barn on his property. I'm probably going to have to be the little pussy in the corner who's doing my PT movements, and not really touching any big weights or having any fun because I'm still hurt. Um, that's going to be an ego check because I'm going to want to jump in and do other stuff. We'll see how that works. We'll talk about that next week. In fact, I'll be coming home on that Wednesday. So the snapped episode from next week may be a day late because of travel. Um, we'll see. Maybe I'll be able to get it done um, in the hotel Wednesday morning, but we're pretty much trying to use all the time that we have down there, getting in front of tight ends and NFL players and trying to get interviews with them. So, not going to have a ton of time to just piddle paddle around with the Snap podcast. But there will be a Snap podcast next week. It just might be on Thursday. So that's it. That's an update on me, physically, personally, with my own training. I haven't done anything but Peloton rides, and I've just started to get in the more intense Echo bike, starting to get the arms into it. Sitting on a bike and pedaling does not hurt my back. Um, I'm gonna basically, until I'm 100%, alternate between low intensity zone 2 rides and high intensity intervals on the Echo bike, and that's about all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this nice and easy. Again, I think that'll probably, until next Wednesday when I get home, I'm probably not gonna be doing much more than that other than, the physical therapy movements that I've got, which I'm working with a performance physical therapist, which is nice. Maybe we'll talk about him sometime. Um, yeah. I am following a new programming. I don't know if we've really talked much about this, but for the last year, yeah, but since May of 2022, so a little over a year now, I had been subscribed to the CrossFit Mayhem Compete track. I was doing for a while there. I was actually subscribed to three different competitive CrossFit tracks. Um, I bit the bullet and took a discount sale last May and bought a year's worth of the CrossFit Mayhem programming. Great programming, followed a lot of it. Um, Lots of variety, was good. Um, then Fraser and HWPO training and programming for the professionals, like the pro track. I had missed it the previous year, so I was like pretty eager to get on that track and see what I could do. I was running that programming for like 4 weeks before I hurt my fucking back in November. And then I canceled it because it was like 60 or $70 a month. And I wasn't doing any working out, let alone a competitive track. So that's unfortunate. Um, but that was the month that I was on there. That was probably the most Tyler Kluver training that there could be. Just straight rowing interval progressions and awesome strength work. And I honestly like that out of all the programs out there that are kind of commercialized and big, the HWPO, the small segment I got of that, the small taste was probably my favorite. Um, I've been following and subscribed to Misfit programming for like 2 or 3 years now and had used their stuff in 2021 and just kind of kept it on the burner and was looking at pieces that they would put out, but still kind of following Mayhem for the most part. Circle all the way back around to quarterfinals ends. We're into a new competitive season for me, looking ahead to 2024. And I am, the Mayhem was about to re up, right? So it was going to be like another 400 or $500 to buy a year Mayhem. I had already canceled Misfit because they upped their prices or something like that. And I had already canceled HWPO because I wasn't using that at all when I got hurt and we had the baby. So I was programless. I had nothing. And kind of the idea to not resubscribe or rebuy another year of any of those programs was Nick DeMarco, who we've had on the Wash Up Walk-Ons. He was a strength coach at the University of Iowa when I was playing there, and he is now into CrossFit. Gotten into CrossFit the last year. Plus, he is a strength condition coach still, the head strength coach for Elon University in North Carolina. He does all of their athletic programs, men's and women's. He's incredibly smart, and he started his own programming called NBD Fitness with another guy, and they are programming a competitive CrossFit program. And he basically offered it up to me for free. And I said, fuck yeah, let's do it. Why not? And I've been running that for about 3 months up until this injury. Uh, and I, probably attribute 50% or more of the reason that I had been PRing and getting super strong to this new programming. He's just as good as of a programmer as any um, of these big competitive CrossFit programs are. And if he's biased at all, he knows how to program strength. And so had been making great gains. I will continue on with that programming, and I'm excited to see what a full. I'm going to do a full year of this, and I'm basically taking a chance because this is assuming I can get 100% healthy and stay healthy. This 2024 competitive season is probably going to be my best chance, maybe 2025. But these next 2 years are going to be my best chance at making a semifinal, whether that be for individuals or the more likely scenario on a team if we can get a team together. And I'm kind of buying into his programming for this being my only or one of two prime years. Um, so that is what I will be following as we get healthy. Uh, which brings me around to the specific workout I hurt my back on. It was Linda. I'm not going to go into it. 295 heavy deadlifts. We were doing a semifinal simulation of CrossFit. I tried to bounce a deadlift like a fucking dumbass and my back popped. I blew it out. Immediately knew it, stopped, threw my belt across the garage. I was pissed. Nothing more to say. Um, that's pretty much it. This is a huge ramble podcast. I think the only thing left for me to talk about, and we'll get more into detail on this as we go on, is I am going to have, and this is really where I'm hoping that the audience kind of sticks around because I want you guys to be the guinea pigs for this. I want you guys to buy into this. It's probably the thing that I'm most excited about and the thing that I want to live on and grow into as my personal competitive aspirations dwindle eventually over the years. Um, is something that has to do with my career and my work, and that is, uh, I wouldn't say I'm introducing it or I started it, because it's already been started. Like I've had Tyler Kluver Fitness as a thing already. Tyler Kluver Nutrition and Fitness Coaching. I've already been a private coach writing programs for people, so this has been a thing. But I am going to be dropping monthly programming, similar to I just talked about with my friend Nick, who's doing competitive CrossFit programming. I am going to be coming out with an at-home program for everyday people, 30 minutes a day, who don't have a lot of time. They're busy people, but they need to get their fitness in, and they just need to be told what to do. It's going to be all that's going to be required is your body, a pair of dumbbells, and a jump rope. That's it. There will be options to kind of add things in. If you do have a pull-up bar, if you do have a bench, if you do have some extra weights, that's great. Eventually, we'll have a couple different tracks or multiple options. Um, but initially, I'm dropping an at-home program, right? Garage training. It's just going to be called Kluver Training. I've already started the Instagram and the Twitter. Just search Kluver Training on either, and you can follow. It's going to be, I'm going to try and post great content around working out in the garage, at home, for everyday people, uh, where you can just, you got 20, 30 minutes. You need a quick workout that's going to get your heart rate up, make you sweat, get you some resistance training in, maybe a mix of both. Some days it'll be cardio focused, some day it'll be lifting. It'll be a mix of everything. It'll never be the same. It'll always vary. It'll always be something new and fresh that isn't boring, and it's going to be cheap. So it's just going to be Kluver Training. Um, I don't know if I'm going to call the specific program like the Walk On Garage Fitness, or I've had all these different ideas like Dumbbells and Dad, or some cute name that I could put on Instagram. I think it's pretty much just going to be uh, like KGT, Kluver Garage Training, and that's going to be the program. And my goal is to get like hundreds of people on this program eventually, right? Build this thing into a huge at-home garage training community. Obviously, that's going to start small. These workouts will be able to be done in a gym, in a YMCA, in a Anytime Fitness, if you already have a membership to one of those, where you can then add in your own stuff uh, on top of my programming. But the goal here is, get people in. When I say cheap, it's going to be less than $1 a day, right? I don't. It's so that's $30 a month. I foresee it being less than $20 a month. I mean, we're talking $17, $18 a month to get a workout every single day. Now, rest days will be recommended, advised, but for those that took a rest day yesterday, like there's always going to be a workout for you to do at least 6 days a week. Maybe I'll make Sundays a rest day or something. But this is going to be monthly programming. We're going to get a huge squad, a huge team doing this. You'll be able to check it in the app. There'll be an app where you just open it up and you got your workout right there for you. Every movement will have, oh, excuse me. There's one that we missed, the yawn. Every podcast, there's always a yawn. We just hit it 34 minutes in. That's a record. Um, you're gonna be able to access this program and direct communication with me through an app. You're basically gonna come on as part of my team, as part of the squad, and we want to build this thing to where we've got 50, 70, 100 people all doing the daily programming, the daily Kluver Garage training, and getting it in, talking about it, talking about how they subbed or modified workouts, how fast they went, PRs, leaderboards. And it'll be for the everyday person, not for the fitness athlete, not for someone like me, not for the high level competitors, not for somebody specific who wants to power lift or Olympic lift. It'll just be general fitness in the garage for the everyday person. 17, 18 bucks a month, and it'll be good workouts. I know what the hell I'm doing. These workouts will benefit you. They will make you stronger. They will make you more fit cardio wise, lung wise, and paired with the right nutrition, which is obviously going to be up to the individual. You could be a fucking savage just doing this for 30 minutes a day. So, professionally, that is what I'm working on, as well as my private one-on-one coaching, which is way more in depth, much more of an investment, but much more customized to you. I'll be bringing clients back in, probably have 12 to 15 slots there for one-on-one clients. And then I think I'm going to be dropping a new challenge, which is the longest challenge we'll have ever done. It's going to be a 12-week program, small group, right? There'll only be 10 or so slots available for this. And it'll be directed at guys that need to lose 20 to 30 pounds in 12 weeks and kind of learn how to go into the fall and the football season where there's a lot of drinking and tailgating, and we can kind of manage what your calories are supposed to look like, how you can fit tailgating and snacks and beer into those daily calories, and how you can live sustainably without having to cut out all your favorite shit. So there's going to be an intense 12-week program with it almost sounds like a 12-step program. It's not AA, but I want it to be as effective. And so we have multiple things coming down the line on the fitness and nutrition coaching side of things. But that is our first episode back. It was just a bunch of word vomit, idea vomit, um, everything that's been in my head sort of conceptually over the last 3 months. We'll go back into some specific uh, topic episodes, focus episodes as we move forward. Thank you for all that are new here. If you find me boring or rambly, put me on like 2 or 3x speed. I promise the podcasts are way better if you can listen fast and get through it, because there is some good nuggets that we drop in here. And as always, keep being a savage. If you need programming, stay on the lookout because it's coming. And we will talk to you guys next week, maybe Thursday, maybe Wednesday. Who knows? We'll see you then. Peace.